Okay, so this is video 2 and 3 of Assessment Task 3, Micro Teaching Portfolio. I'll start with video 2. So video 2 is work samples and student feedback. The context of this assessment task is that it consists of a one-page descriptive report of life along the Nile. Students are to imagine they are an Egyptian official working for the pharaoh and have returned from a sailing trip down the Nile. Students will use a descriptive report scaffold, which should include the following paragraphs: introduction, farming, wildlife, leisure activities, and a conclusion. The first student sample here is an example of an A-level response. This student response has a strong introduction that correctly applies the tone and conventions of an official report from the scaffold. The report style has been maintained throughout the student's writing, displaying a good understanding of historical empathy. This report has an appropriate use of historical terms. They give a detailed description of the Nile River and its features, including wildlife, crops, livestock, and leisure activities performed along the river. The report is well structured with few grammatical errors, and for that reason, it has received an A grade. Moving on to report number 2. So this is an example of a C grade response. In this response, the student has demonstrated an adequate understanding of the main features of the Nile River and its importance to the people of ancient Egypt. The report follows a logical structure with an attempt to incorporate some historical terms. However, it does lack detail and can be repetitive at times. An appropriate conclusion has been drawn at the end of the report. However, the response does not strongly adhere to the conventions of the report outlined in the scaffold. Overall, the student has made a sound attempt at this report with room for improvement there. Now we'll move on to a final work sample, which as an example of a D-level response. So in this response, the report demonstrates a basic level of knowledge and understanding of the main features of the Nile River. The student has made an attempt to use the descriptive report scaffold. However, the response uses the tone of an official report inconsistently. Some historical terms are incorporated, but overall the report lacks depth and detail. This response would benefit from effective incorporation of appropriate historical terms, as well as additional spell checking and editing, as several spelling mistakes were present. Additional revision of the concept of historical empathy could assist the student in maintaining the tone appropriate for an official report throughout this response. So that is all the work samples there. The feedback that's provided to students would consist of individual written feedback given back to the students along with their work, as well as additional class time devoted to the deconstruction of a de-identified model response. In the whole class, in the lesson devoted to the deconstruction of the model response, the marking criteria would be displayed alongside the student's response, and each component of the marking criteria will be matched to the section of the response where the criteria is being met. For data collection, the student work samples would be collected so that a record of progress could be maintained, and students identified as not achieving reasonable progress could be provided with the support they need. So that concludes video 2. I'll move on to video 3. Which is catering for students from diverse backgrounds. So in order to cater for students from diverse backgrounds, the students will be provided with multiple resources to support them in the gathering of information and ensure students explore life along the Nile from different perspectives, which promotes historical empathy and emphasizes cultural sensitivity. Students will be given the opportunity to handwrite the task, type it, film it, or orally present their report. Hopefully this will cater to a wide variety of student preferences there. Students can be provided with a glossary of terms to help support those experiencing difficulty with historical terminology and language. And some students may have difficulty with the language used in the assessment task. Providing support in the form of a glossary of terms, or consider offering the option of completing the task in their native language. This last option is potentially very difficult to employ, seeing as you may have a very wide variety of students from diverse backgrounds other than English speaking in your school, and it just may be impossible because you might not have a teacher that understands or reads that particular language, and problematic because if you don't know what the student has written, unfortunately, you can't mark it. So how can meet the literacy demands? So this assessment task offers students ample opportunities to develop their literacy skills. This task requires students to construct a written response using the conventions of an official report. As such, students display their literacy skills by utilizing appropriate tone for the writing and incorporating historical empathy and perspectives. To assist students in their response, the teacher will provide students with a scaffold for the layout of the report. Throughout the unit, the teacher will have devoted significant time to modeling the construction of written tasks, including short answer and peel paragraphs to demonstrate historical empathy and perspective to students and offer them the opportunity to practice and develop these skills and receive feedback on them before they are asked to produce a piece of work that they'll be assessed on. So meeting the numeracy demands. This is a bit more difficult for this task as there is limited opportunities for students to incorporate numeracy into their response. If numeracy outcomes are identified as being essential within the task, then it must be communicated to students within the assessment task description, and opportunities for incorporating numeracy in their task should be identified for them. The numerical concepts of measurement could be incorporated into the assessment task, including the length of the Nile River within the ancient Egyptian kingdom, as well as its depth within a certain measured area. The date the report was compiled on during the reign of Pharaoh Seti could be another way that numeracy is used within the assessment task. Students must be made aware prior to the assessment task that if they're using metric units of measurement and modern day dating conventions, that these numerical systems are anachronistic to the ancient Egyptian society. They will be made aware that they will not be penalized for using these systems, but bonus marks will be awarded for those who make a legitimate attempt to use ancient Egyptian unit of measurements and dating systems. So that concludes video 2 and 3. Thank you for watching. Bye.